Howdy howdy, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how I make this interactive tic-tac-toe game card using some items from Trinity Stamps and some less used and underappreciated items that you might have in your stash. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here's the finished card. I thought I'd record the whole video and then record the finished part where I did actually add some pearls here. And these are the little game pieces. And they are magnetic, so they do kind of stick to each other. And my big old fingers have trouble grabbing them out. We're hoping little fingers won't have such an issue. But each game piece has a little magnet on the back. So this is not recommended for children. I'd say probably 4 and under. You know, if you swallow one magnet, no huge deal. But if you start stuffing them up your nose and doing other things that weird small children do, maybe it's a good idea to reserve this for the older kids. So it's got a little lid on it, and then inside is the little game board. And it is also just some decorated paper that I did stuck to a magnet. Now the magnets that I use are the magnets that you can get at Lowe's, and they're meant for vent covers. They're not amazing for instance, holding your dies unless you kind of glue them to a piece of chipboard or some heavyweight paper. But I buy them anyways, and I do use them. And I use them for other things. So what we have here is a little magnetic game, and I'm playing a game of tic-tac-toe with myself, and I can't win because I can't cheat. But I did want to demonstrate that these will stick to that magnet. And you can shove them back in here if you want to, or take all the little game pieces and put them back in the pail. So, anyway, I don't know, you know, my crazy mind. But this could be a fun project that doesn't have to be inside the pail. It just so happens that I have this awesome little pail shaker, and you know, Trinity Stamps sent it to me, and I really haven't had time to play with it because I got sick. And so this is called the Shovel and Pail shaker, and it's got also a little shovel with it, but I didn't use the shovel. I'm just using the pail part here today. And then I'm also going to be using this Mermazing stamp and die set that I have, that Trinity Stamps also sent to me. I'm going to use this little mermaid. I'm going to use the crab and the little fish and starfish and bubbles and the happy birthday. And then let's put this game board back inside. So I made a little pocket for the game board. And then I'm going to be using these Seaspray Shimmer embellishment mix, and that's what I have there on the outside. So my shaker is functional. So let's go ahead and get started here. And I'm starting out with just cutting out the pail pieces. And what I've done here is I've taped 2 pieces together, and I leave them taped together the duration while I cut out all of these pieces here. And so I've got 7 of 110-pound accent opaque, and then I've got 1 of each of this kind of green color. And then I've got about 6 of the white of this top part of the pail and 2 magnets. And I will have to do some trimming. So let me just say that I pretty much did this on the go. I'm like, okay, let me see if I can do this, and I'll just go ahead and record myself doing it and see what we get. And oh, it may not turn out at all, but let's go for it and try it. So that larger piece I used to cut out the acetate pieces. And I'm going to want to stick those on to the front and the back. So both of the kind of sea green pieces of paper are the front and the back. And then everything else is just everything else. But you can see that in order to have a pail that I can put things in, I'm going to need to cut some away. And so I've cut some away here from my acetate. And then I need to cut some away from all of the pieces except for the back piece. So I'm going to go to my first piece and cut some away, and then I'll use that as kind of a template to cut the rest of the way. And then you'll see later in the video that I needed to cut more, but I didn't realize that until I got to that part. Like I said, I'm kind of doing this on the fly, seeing if it'll work, and decided to just film myself doing it. So I left that space at the top open, and then I've got some little red line baloney tape here on the sides, and this is just a little 1/8 inch tape. And I'm going to go ahead and pull the backer off this tape and stick on the acetate. And the acetate that I'm using is the report cover stuff that I get. And I'll have that link down below, as well as everything I used here in the project, except for the magnets. You can get those at Lowe's. And you get 3 in a pack, and they're white on one side and magnet colored on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this one down. And then I need to trim off all the rest of the little white pieces. So I'm going to do that mostly off camera. Lots of stuff I'll be doing off camera because, you know, what's the point? So I need to have all of them have an opening except for the back piece. And I'll go ahead and put my acetate down on my back piece now as well. And I'm going to do the same just with the red line tape. This would make a neat little coffee cup too, by the way, if you wanted to. Anyway, I was thinking you could do this. You could make the game board a pull-out from, you know, like a see-through card. Like you would make a shaker and you would build up the sides and leave the top open, and then do the game board as a pull-out, and you could just stick your little pieces right to the game board so that it would stay secure inside the card until you're ready to play the game. The important part about the magnets is because they're, you know, obviously they're pieces of paper. And, you know, they're just going to fly everywhere if the kids are in the car or whatever. Now, look, I realize that in today's world, kids are in the back of the car with an iPad or movies or something like that. But Lord knows we didn't grow up that way. We were bored to death in the car. We played Slug Bug. We had little Tic TacToe games. We had card games. We had my grandmother reaching around and giving us a smack and getting us to shut up. Yeah, it was a different world back then. You know, no seatbelts, in the back of a station wagon, laying down with the back window open, breathing in all that exhaust. We survived. We survived. Bless my grandma's heart. She used to take me and my cousins camping every summer, and she would load up her Prowler trailer and hook it to the station wagon by herself, drive by herself with all of us kids to, oh, I don't know, Morro Bay or Pinecrest or Dardanelle or someplace, you know, in California, obviously, and deal with all us kids. I don't know how she did it, man. That woman was a saint. So here's another piece cut out, and I'm just going to use that as kind of a template here, so I can kind of draw. So I just took it, laid it down onto the paper here, onto the next piece, and just kind of drew a pencil line where I need to cut out. And that way they're all pretty much the same. You know, you're never going to get anything perfect. But here I've got them all together, and I have them glued together, but they're not quite even. And so I'm just going to take my little sanding disc here. That's a Tim Holtz sanding disc that fits onto these little ink blending tools. And I'm just going to kind of sand off until it's all kind of even and smooth. And you know, it sands very slowly, but it's really a really helpful tool, and I really like it a lot. So there's that. You can use scissors, you can use a fingernail file, use what you have, but if you have a cool tool, hey, pull it out, use it. So I'm doing all this sanding before I realize that I actually need to cut more away. And I'm going to show you in a minute how I did that. Looks pretty smooth, so I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay the top piece down on top. And I'm just going to glue that down. I'm not going to tape it because I'm terrible with tape, and everybody knows that. But you could use tape if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter because this is not a functional shaker. This is just kind of a holder for our game pieces. So we'll get that laid down there. And we'll make sure the glue's nice and dry before we move on to the next step. Just kind of make sure it's nice and even. You could use colored paper for that part too if you wanted to. So here's where I realized that, wait a second here, I need to cut some of that away because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get my pieces in. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab my finger blade knife here, and I'm just going to kind of make a cut here off to the side a little bit, just a few, you know, little cuts. And then I'll cut away some of the paper so that I have an opening big enough for my pieces to get in and out of. I don't need to do it all the way down to the bottom. And I'll just kind of peel off those excess pieces, get my knife stuck in there and just kind of peel them off. So I want to say it's 3 or 4 layers that I'm peeling off out of the 7 or 8 that are there. I'm just kind of cutting it with my knife, and then I'll scrape a little bit, just kind of scrape off this excess paper, and clean up a little bit with my scissors too, because I don't want any little hairy parts on there. Nobody likes a hairy card unless it's meant to be a hairy card. Let's see if I have enough of an opening for stuff to fit in, and it looks like I need to just cut a little bit more away. So if you do this, you want to probably cut some of those away before you put it together. But, you know, live and learn, right? Like I said, we're doing this on the fly. I'm experimenting, and I'm just taking you along for the ride. Decide to record this because, like I did, you know, I got these stamps and dies from Trinity. I think I want to say for the June release. And just haven't had a chance to use them all since I got sick and just didn't really feel like making videos. I'm all better now, so that's a good thing. I mean, as better as I can be for an old lady. Let's go ahead and trim that little part off too. And what I end up doing off camera is adding some multimedia matte, or actually I think I used some collage medium over the top of that so no more paper would peel. Because, you know, paper will just continue to peel. So I'll go ahead and trim this with my little scissors, get it all nice and neat over there. You're never going to see it, but it's still important that it's not sticking out or anything, because you want everything to stick and slide easily. So, pretty good with that, looking good. Let's see how it's going to go. And I'm going to have it go so that the acetate goes on the inside. And I can see that I've got enough of an opening for my little pieces to come in and out. And that was what was important to me. And that's what you'll need to have important to you as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do a little bit more cleanup on here. Get out that excess just to make it look nice and neat. And then off camera, I did put some, like I said, some collage medium over that just so that it would stay stuck. And then here's the cut piece, and I did trim off the corners of all the pieces except for the top piece so that they'll fit in here properly. And I'm going to go ahead and put this piece together. And I'm just going to use glue to stick that down. And, you know, of course, leave that top open. And this is just this is my PVA glue that I'm using here, so it does give me some wiggle room. But it also sticks nicely once it takes hold. So we've got our little container ready to go. And then on the, I used the same paper for the top part of the pail, but I did take some of my ink and the Tropical Tango Simon Hurley and kind of darken that down so it seemed more like the inside. And I'm just checking here for fit. And then I'll go ahead and glue that portion of the magnet down so you can see the back side of the magnet is white. And just turn it to the side so I can see what the heck I'm doing. And make sure that's good and stuck down. And then these pieces will just stick right to the magnet as long as I put them on properly. I want to make sure that because you see I've got that little cutout, I've got it upside down, so now it's going to fit just fine. And it'll just sit right there on top of that magnet and kind of keep the thing closed so that your little pieces don't fall out. Okay, ready to go. There's our container. Now we need to get to work on our little pieces that go inside. So that's what we're going to do next. So I'm grabbing this Mermazing and just checking my opening again. Looks good. I want to make sure that I don't make my pieces too thick. And I'm going to grab the little crab. And I love that little crab. I love him to pieces. And little fish, and those are going to be my tic-tac-toe pieces. And then I'm going to stamp several of them. So I looked it up on the internet, and the internet says for a tic-tac-toe game you need 5 of each, but it's always a good idea to make extras. I did make extras, but I didn't make them into game pieces. And I am using Ink on 3 Blackout on some alcohol marker friendly paper. And I'm going to stamp out 7 of this little crab. And I'm just going to use 5 as game pieces, but I'm going to use a couple as decorations on the card as well. So we'll go ahead and get these guys stamped out. And I'm probably in any second now going to skip ahead. There we go. I've got all 7 of those, so I'm going to pull those off. And I will color all of these off camera. I do color them with my Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers because the red is really, really handy. So next I'm going to stamp out my fish, and I'm going to stamp out 6 fish, and I'm going to stamp out a mermaid because I need a mermaid decoration on here. You could leave off the mermaid, say if you're making this card for like a boy. Oh, there goes a boom boom car. And somebody trying to come in. I'm telling you, try to do a voiceover. Okay, let's grab our little mermaid. I've got the little 6 fish done, and here's our little mermaid. And I love this one with the little blowfish balloons. So stinking adorable. I really want to thank Trinity Stamps for sending me extras, knowing that I didn't have any. It was really sweet. Before this, I didn't have anything mermaid. I don't know why. I just didn't. And I am stamping 3 times just to make sure I've got it nice and black. And let's go ahead and clean off the stamp and get it put away. And let's see here, what happens next? What happens next? Well, we put the stamp away, we pull this off, we color and cut out all our pieces. So there they are, all colored and cut out. Now we're going to I'm going to be using my black vinyl, my Cricut vinyl, and this is the permanent vinyl. And I'm going to cut out the little fish. And we're going to cut it out from the back side because we want this to be opposite. We want to stick it down to the back of our little fish. And what that's going to do is it's going to help hold our little magnet piece on. Because the magnets, the part that you're gluing down, is kind of like almost like a backer. And so it doesn't glue really well. So I'm just pulling this piece off very carefully. And again, this is permanent vinyl, so, you know, I mean, I don't even have a Cricut anymore, but I have a ton of Cricut vinyl, so I keep trying to find ways to use that vinyl. And here's this magnet, and that's what it looks like, and it's really thin. It's probably 3 millimeters. And so I'm going to take my little cutter, and I'm just going to cut a little circle magnet. And I'm going to cut enough for all of them, but I'll put this one together on camera for you. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue, and I'm going to take the white part of the magnet. I'm going to stick it down, and then I'll take my little piece of vinyl. Let's move this in better view, and let me zoom you in so you can see what the heck I'm doing here. I'm going to take this little piece of vinyl and carefully stick it down to the back of my little fish. And then just kind of burnish it with my finger to make sure that it's burnished all the way, all the way around the magnet piece. And there is one of our game pieces. And let me zoom back out so I don't forget, because Lord knows I've done that before. I've sat here and did a whole video forgetting that I was zoomed in. But here's how he fits inside the little shaker thing. Lovely. All right, let's go ahead and get the rest of those finished off camera, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, there we go. Let's get a zoom backed out. Okay, I've got them all in my little shaker pouch thingy, in my little pail, and they all fit nicely, and they all have a little nice vinyl coating on the back of them, so that also helps them stay more sturdy. Now, me and my stiff fingers, I have trouble picking these things up. I'm hoping little kid fingers won't have such an issue, or even adults who feel like battling out in a heated game of tic tac-toe. You could do a checker game. Heck, you could do a chess game if you wanted to. You just have to look up the regulation board so you make sure you get the right amount of squares. Okay, see, so they stay in, well, as long as you don't shake it too hard. And make sure that you put the shaker piece back in the right spot. And let's move on to building the card now. So here's some extra pieces that I have that I'm going to use for card decoration. And let's go ahead and put the top on my glue because, yeah, probably a good idea until I need it next time. And we're going to decorate the pail. And I'm not going to put her on the pail. She's going to go on the inside of the card. That pail is going to be pretty much most of the outside of the card. And so I'm going to grab some colored cardstock here. And you don't have to use colored cardstock. You could just color it yourself. Oh, that was interesting when I laid that purple down. The whole dynamic of my camera change colors. I don't know why it started doing that. I didn't used to do that. But I've cut out the pieces, and I just wanted to show you that this little handle piece has a little divot in there that fits right along that little side knobby that sticks out. So I'm sticking those to that. And that'll take care of that part, and I'll give that time to dry. And then I've got these little decorative pieces that I'm going to place on here. So I've got a light purple and a dark purple, kind of to go with my little mermaid. And then I'm going to go ahead and get to work on the inside of the card and the outside of the card. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of this magnet down to 4x4. And I do end up trimming off a little bit because I need it to fit. And I want to make sure that I've got the magnets going the right direction. So I've got this little piece, and then I'm going to take a piece of my Bristol Smooth paper because it's a thinner paper. Actually, I think I'm actually using Hammer Mill 65 pound. And I'm going to go ahead and just ink blend on this with just some, let's see, I'm going to use some of the Simon Hurley Remember Me. And I'm not looking to do a perfect job. This is the top of our game board. And I'm going to go ahead and grab some of these little bubbles from this set. And I'm just going to randomly stamp bubbles all over it. Just going to lay them out, and I'm going to use the same color and just stamp bubbles on it. Just a crazy amount of little bubbles. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the bubbles back, and I'm going to grab the little starfish here. And I'm going to grab a different color. I'm going to grab the Tropical Tango and just stamp out some little starfish. So what we're doing here basically is decorating our board. Now we know that's 4x4, and I need to find the center. So I'm going to use my little grid, and I'm going to put it in a 4x4 spot. I'm going to find the 2-inch spot and 2 inches from each side and just mark the middle. And then I'm going to lay the number 2 of my ruler here down in the middle of that, and I'm just going to draw these lines. So I'm just drawing a line on either side of the ruler so that they're basically 1-inch little tic-tac-toe spots. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick this down, and I need the black side up, and I'm going to use the thinnest glue I have. So I'm going to use this Tombow, and I'm just going to stick that down to the magnet. Make sure that my pieces stick and they're in the right spot before I commit too hard. And let's go ahead and put those guys back. And I did want to edge this out a little bit, so I'm just going a little bit darker with the Tropical Tango around the edges. Okay, and this is really sped up because it's, you know, common stuff that we do all the time. Main stuff I wanted you to be able to see was everything else. So now I've got my Bristol Smooth, and I am going to do the front part of my card. And I'm going to grab my brayer, and at first I think, I'm going to put my ink down onto this little mat first and then brayer from there. But I find that I'm just not getting it dark enough. I'm just impatient. So I'm just going to go straight onto the ink pad. And I'm just going to brayer out this cookie dough ink. And again, I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for kind of rough. And then I'm going to grab the, Clear Skies, no, Tropical Tango. And I'm going to just brayer this side out too. And again, I don't need it to be perfect. I'm going to be doing some splattering next. And so I'm going to grab my Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white and just put a little bit down on my mat, add a little bit of water, and just splatter. And I'm keeping the splatters mostly right here, but at the basically the shoreline, the imaginary shoreline, to kind of represent bubbles. And then I'll take a little bit of the Tropical Tango and lay it down on my mat and get some water. And then I'm going to take some Weeping Willow and make some Weeping Willow splatters at the bottom. We'll set that aside and let it dry. And then I'm going to grab a card base, and I decide to use a purple card base. And you don't have to use, use what you have. And then I've got this little piece of this green colored paper, and I'm just going to take this little hill thing and I'm going to cut a pocket. So we'll be right back with that. And this is all I have here. I just want a pocket to put my game board in. And so I'm just going to glue along the sides and bottom, leaving the center open so I have that pocket. Okay, and then just make sure that's down on there nice and straight. And this is where I discover I'm going to need to trim a little bit of my game board, because it's 4 inches, but by the time I've got, my card is just 4 1/4, so I really need to make sure that, the card is able to close. I'm going to go ahead and glue my little mermaid with her little blowfish balloon down. God, I love that little stamp. It's so adorable. That little fish just kills me. And I think I'll give her a little crab, little company with little crab. I could make and keep thousands of these little crabs. I just love them. I just love their little goofy eyes. Okay, so we've got our decoration for the inside of the card. And see, here's my game board, but what I find out is that really it's a little too tight. So I'm going to just trim a little bit off of each side. It'll still be fine because we still have plenty of room for the game on the inside. So I'm cutting a sliver, maybe a 1/16 of an inch off of each side. Nothing really, just a wee bit. So you can see this is a really thin magnet because it has no problem getting cut with my Tim Holtz and tonic trimmer here. Just trim off all the sides. So I just want to make sure it fits nicely and it's not too snug and the card will close perfectly. So let's get that in there. And yes, it fits just perfect. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and glue down our little background here. And I'm just going to use some liquid glue for that. And my hands are already a mess, but that's par for the course here when you're working with me. And I see one of my little fish escape there. I want to make sure I put him back in the pail. Oh, actually, that's an extra fish that's going to go on the outside of the card. Okay, no worries, no worries. There's my extra crab, my extra fish. So I'm going to glue this down to the card. And you don't have to, you could do Velcro and have it be able to actually come off. Or you could do it magnetic and stick it to the fridge, It's all up to you. The magnets don't like to cut super well in the in my Empress trimmer, but they trim fine in my Vagabond with the metal, with the precision, the chrome precision plate. So let's put an extra little crab here like he got out of the bucket. We'll put a little fish right here just for extra decoration. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down the top part of this pail so it's not loose and, something that could easily be snagged. Almost done, my friends. Okay, make sure that's good and stuck down. Now I just need to do the sentiment, and I've done that off camera, and that's also from the Mermazing Stamp and Die Set. So I cut it out, I stamped it with the Tropical Tango, and then cut it out with the coordinating die. And I do need to pop that up on one side because obviously that pail is pretty high. And I end up starting with 2 layers and end up needing 3. So I know I just need it across the happy part. So I'm just going to lay the happy down onto that piece of foam and then find my nonstick scissors and trim off the excess carefully without trying to trim the paper, and obviously that's still way too low, so let's do another layer. And you just, you need to layer it up so that it's fairly even with the piece that you're sticking it onto. Okay, let's see. Still a little low. Okay, I'm going to do one more layer. I think I'd rather have it a little high than a little too low. So I'll just add one more layer here. And you could do this with paper. You could count the papers and do it all with paper if you wanted to. Okay, I'm good with that, because it is birthday card after all. And then we'll just peel the backer off and add a little bit of glue. And other than embellishments, which I do kind of afterwards, I don't feel myself doing it. This card is finished. So we've got a happy birthday card that's interactive with a game inside. And you could be more careful than I am, but let me dump the game pieces out here again. Oops, that's not a game piece. And pull out my game board. And we're ready to rock and roll with a game of Tic TacToe. This would be fun with bees and flowers, or boys' faces and girls' faces, or whatever. So I won that game. I beat myself. And we'll go ahead and put the game pieces back in. Easy enough to get in and out. Harder for me to get out because my hands just don't work like normal people hands. But come on, get in there. You just give it a little tap and they go down. Because they are magnetic, they kind of stick to each other, which is okay. But the vinyl helps them kind of slide around too. Get that little piece, these two little guys. There's our card. Get in there, don't lose one. So it's a good idea to make a few extras, keep them handy somewhere. But there's our card. I hope you like it. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. And here's a still photo of the image. Thank you so much for visiting my channel and watching my video. I hope you have a marvelous day.